Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kashid Dukh Bhagavate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Today we will start our spiritual journey from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Problems of Arjuna. But before that, we try to understand why Krishna spoke the Gita to Arjuna. There might be several reasons, but the important reason was that Krishna wanted to reveal the supreme science of the Gita to the world through Arjuna, who would act as a role model and a teacher for future generations. But still, why Arjuna? Maybe Arjuna was a devotee and a friend of Krishna who had the faith and the capacity to understand the transcendental knowledge of the Gita. Arjuna was in a state of confusion and despair on the battlefield and needed the guidance of Krishna to perform his duty as a warrior and a leader. Or Arjuna was the most humble and sincere among the Pandavas, who did not have any pride or attachment to his own abilities and achievements. That is the reason. Another thing, these all chapters are some form of yoga. The word yoga, you will see in the chapter name also, and when you actually go through the understanding of those chapters, you will see the yoga. So we should understand the word yoga. The yoga means the teaching of divine knowledge, and in Hindi or Sanskrit it means addition. In Bhagavad Gita, yoga or yoga means the union or the connection of the individual soul, which is no one but we, Jivatma, and the Supreme Soul, which is none but Paramatma. That connection is called yoga, and that is the highest goal for human life. It also refers as the method or the practice that lead to this union. That means the highest goals of human life. Each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is named after a different aspect of type of yoga to build a connection between individual soul, Jivatma, to Paramatma. And they are named as like Gyan Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, etc. You should also remember that study the Gita is not just an intellectual exercises, but a guide for living a spiritual and ethical life. So with this introduction, let's start chapter 1 and understand the meanings and context of chapter 1, Problems of Arjuna. Let's reiterate the essence of first chapter of the Gita is to introduce the problem that Arjuna faces on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and to set the stage for the solution that Krishna will offer in subsequent chapter. And that's the reason the chapter named as Arjuna Vishaada Yoga. The problem is that The Arjuna is overcome by grief and delusion when he sees his relatives, teachers and friends on the opposite side, and he loses his will and duty to fight. He questions the morality and the purpose of the war and seeks the guidance of Krishna, who is his friend and charioteer too. The solution is that Krishna will teach Arjuna the knowledge of self, the action of karma yoga and the devotion of bhakti yoga, which will enable him to overcome his attachments, ignorance and the sorrow, and finally to perform his duty as a warrior and as a leader. The first chapters also shows the human and the emotional side of Arjuna, who is otherwise a great hero and a noble man. So these first chapters also serve as a mirror for all of us as a seekers of Gita, who can identify with Arjuna dilemmas and learn from Krishna's teaching. Somewhere the problems of Arjunas are related to you and me, the worldly beings, homely beings, in the sense that both deals with the challenges and dilemmas of life in the world. Arjuna, a great warrior and hero of Hindu epic Mahabharata, faced a moral crisis when he had to fight against his own relatives and friends in a war. Then he was counseled by Krishna, the Supreme Lord. Both problems of Arjuna and us relevant to the human condition, as they explore the themes of duty, morality, identity and happiness and peace. As a common man, now what we can learn from this chapter, and that too, what is the problem Arjuna faced? The same problems we are also facing in our day-to-day lives, and that is attachment, grief, delusion, and that is obviously cloud our judgment and prevent us to perform our duties. How we can overcome those things. So main points from these chapters are Arjuna seeing his own kinsmen and the friends assembled on both the sides of the battlefield is struck with deep sorrow and moral conflicts. Arjuna expresses his internal turmoil to Krishna, his charioteer and friend, saying he cannot carry out the act of killing his own relatives. He anticipates the destruction of family values and righteousness due to the war. He also fears the sin and the consequences of killing his elders and teachers. And finally, at the end of this chapter, Arjuna concludes his inner turmoil by admitting that he is unable to determine the right path. He acknowledges his confusion and asks Krishna for guidance. He surrenders his will to Krishna, acknowledging Krishna as his guru, the spiritual guide. He awaits Krishna's instruction on how to proceed. And this is for us too. This chapter, let's surrender ourselves to Lord Krishna for his guidance and learn how he guides us in coming chapters. Hare Krishna.